My name is N.E.S.A.R.A.
Let me ask you a question. Has anything ever happened to you that you couldn't explain? That made you feel sort of foolish when you tried to tell somebody about it? Well, if it has, you have plenty of company, as you'll soon see.
Maitreya, the world teacher, has not come alone, but with a group of enlightened teachers.
In the Bible codes, I've always seen that these New Age ascended masters, such as Maitreya and this coming Saint Germain, who's going to implement the new economic program on Earth, they call it N.E.S.A.R.A. They may change the name of it because I've already exposed what N.E.S.A.R.A. is, and they hate being exposed by anything beforehand. But he's pretty much going to be in charge of the economic program. The Sananda Jesus that's coming. Maitreya is one of these very dangerous individuals, the fact that he can hypnotize people. And I've warned about this on his day of declaration when he arrives on Earth. If you follow this Benjamin Creme stuff, he talks about how when he arrives on Earth, if you follow this Benjamin Creme stuff, he talks about how when he arrives on Earth, he's going to speak to the entire world telepathically via the television set.
He will come on the television, everyone will see him, but Maitreya will not actually speak. Maitreya is omniscient, omnipresent, and he will create a telepathic link with every adult during the time of this broadcast. And each of us will hear his thoughts in our own language. It is called the Day of Declaration.
And I know at that time that every Christian in the world needs to throw their TV sets out and not have them on. Not to watch this guy on television. Not to listen to him, because he will hypnotize you. And I see this in the codes all the time, where he has this capability of hypnotizing his listeners. And so...
Just a moment. Let me introduce you first, though, to Zena LaVey. Her father, Anton LaVey, is, I guess, the founding father of Satanism in this country. He founding it, about 25 years ago, Zena?
Yeah, approximately 25 years.
Can you tell us with any certainty how widespread the religion of Satanism is in this country or around the world?
Well, the religion is worldwide. We have members just throughout the world, and it's a legitimate religion. It's perfectly within the... it's legal.
But how many people? Hundreds, thousands, tens of
thousands.
thousands, hundreds of thousands?
Hundreds of thousands, I can't say. Thousands, easily.
What is it, Dr. Aquino? Dr. Aquino, the high priest of the Church of Set?
Temple of Set.
Temple of Set, also a colonel, interestingly enough, in the United States Army. Mm-hmm. What is it, this Satanism?
I think that there is some confusion tonight because this same term means something different to Satanists than it does to Christians in the United States. By our own standards, the people who you've shown in these film clips would not be Satanists, either present or in the past. Rather, they would be the failures of a conventional religion.
I appreciate your opinion. What is it, sir, then? What is Satanism?
Well, originally the Church of Satan, when it was founded, was composed not of people with a hatred for Christianity, but of people who, by and large, were agnostics and atheists, because they felt that the institutions which had arisen around Christianity had failed in their moral commitment. So Satanism itself became an emphasis on rational self-interest and on taking responsibility for your own intellectual and ethical decisions.
Rational self-interest, you call it?
Yes.
Okay, one thing we do know that Satanism has in common with other religions is the belief that the devil can inhabit your body. Remember the movie Exorcist, the film? Forced underground by the religious hysteria of the Middle Ages. Satanism was resurrected, first by an Englishman named Aleister Crowley in the early 20th century. It entered its modern era in this country just about 25 years ago, under the theatrical guidance of Anton LaVey, California-based high priest of present-day devil worship. LaVey founded the Church of Satan. Now, despite its preachings of evil and hate, the church and its offshoots are constitutionally protected religions.
I believe that hate is necessary in a controlled way just as much as love is necessary.
LaVey penned the best-selling Satanic Bible. It's the handbook of devil worshippers everywhere. And for a time, he was considered chic enough to attract the attention of Hollywood. After working together on a film, LaVey made Sammy Davis Jr. an honorary member, while the late Jane Mansfield was for a time among LaVey's most passionate followers.
Most of the people that are in my group are professional people, they're business people, they're people that are from very responsible walks of life.
The Temple of Set was originally thought to take the context of what our original satanic experience had been out of the Judeo-Christian mythology system. And harking back to the original Church of Satan days, we were looking really to find the nature of what is generally called the human soul. In other words, what it is within us that animates us, that gives us freedom of decision, of conceptualization, the intellectual life force. The Church of Satan, of course, had a certain social criticism aspect to it, and it also liked to hold Judeo-Christianity's feet to the fire. After 10 years, both of those became sort of played out, and we were looking, as Obi-Wan Kenobi suggested to Luke Skywalker in the first Star Wars movie, to take a first step into a larger universe. So the Temple of Set exists to explore the self, the personality, and we do this through the media of ancient Egyptian religion, which we found to be the most sophisticated. So what you see in the Temple of Set is not anything with an agenda towards good or evil per se, but rather towards understanding consciousness, and once you understand consciousness, to maximize your personal use of it in such a way that you are not the slave to conventions or to propaganda of any sort, for that matter, so that you are in effect a God yourself, responsible for your own decisions concerning matters of good or evil or morality.
In our investigation, we discovered that some of Satan's soldiers are also high-ranking officers in the United States military. Here at San Francisco's Presidio Army Base, for example, Lieutenant Colonel Michael Aquino led a double life as a satanic high priest. The colonel's cult is listed in the San Francisco telephone book, and his phone answering machine boasts of his affiliation.
This is the Temple of Set. The temple is the only international satanic religious institution fully recognized by the United States government.
Indeed, the Army does officially recognize Satanism as a legitimate religion and supplies chaplains with this guide for ministering to the satanic soldier. Yet unofficially, some charge that Army bases have become sanctuaries for devil worshippers. The present base commander, Colonel Rafferty, says that today, at least,
I know of no satanic activities whatsoever in this area.
Satanism may be a constitutionally protected religion, but similar to another recent case at the United States Military Academy at West Point, here charges surface connecting ritual child abuse at the Presidio Daycare Center to the devil cult. It was here, parents and others allege, that as many as 60 young children were ritualistically abused by soldiers of Satan.
What actually was done to the kids?
Oral copulation, sodomy, defecation, they were urinated on.
The former chief juvenile investigator at the Presidio, Ed Abanofsky, is here. He's now a deputy sheriff in Santa Clara County. Colonel Aquino, we note, sir, for the record, that you were originally implicated in the dreadful charges of child abuse. We note also that no charges were ever brought against you, and presumably you have been cleared. Would you like to comment on why those charges were brought against you?
Well, the entire time that the so-called child molestation scandal was occurring at the Presidio, the time period when these terrible events were supposedly taking place, I was assigned to the National Defense University in Washington, D.C., and my wife was out there living with me.
But is it not a fact that a 3.5-year-old girl identified you as the alleged perpetrator of molestation?
No, as a matter of fact, it is not the case. An accusation was made by her stepfather, who was an Army chaplain, speaking on behalf of this child. In her original interview with the FBI, she denied ever being molested.
Well, I've seen you are innocent until proven guilty. You were never charged in this case. I don't want to belabor the point. I have seen, however, the affidavits for the search warrant of your home, and they indicate the child is speaking to the authorities, not her father.
This was after she had been subjected to therapy.
Let's say you are innocent of that. You are no longer at the Presidio. You are now in St. Louis, but you are still a serving officer or colonel in the United States Army. Do you feel it is inconsistent with a high-ranking officer pledged, sworn, to uphold the Constitution of the United States that you are also a practicing Satanist?
Not in the least. The Army has known of my religion for the last 20 years. There has never been a problem with it, any more than there's a problem with other members of minority religions.
But let me read from the Satanic Bible. Quote, this is the number one, commandment. Death to the weakling, wealth to the strong. How can you believe this and still uphold the Constitution of the United States? Death to the weakling?
Well, for one thing, what you're looking at there is a highly polemical book that was never meant to be taken literally in all of its commandments.
Father.
Yes, and I'm aware of that, and I'm also saying that members of the Church of Satan understood that much of this book was in the form of a polemic. It was a statement that was dramatically made, but was not intended to be taken literally in all its respects.
So we should not take this book literally?
Correct.
This is Dr. Walter Grote, would you stand, sir? Whose daughter was allegedly abused at West Point, the United States Military Academy. You were a captain in the United States Army. Aside from what allegedly happened to your daughter, which I know you allege was part of a satanic cult, and having nothing to do with this man, I state again for the record, what is your feeling, sir, on the fact that a serving officer in the United States Army is also a professed Satanist, a high-ranking person?
Well, I think in this election year, we've heard a lot about values, Geraldo. We've heard a lot that our little children should be saying the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag. Mr. Kinnu has identified himself as an antichrist. He preaches that as the leader of the Temple Set. I don't think I'm misquoting him. I find it inconceivable that we can have candidates talking about one nation under God and having our children say that, yet by the same token, we can have somebody in our Army as a colonel leading our troops in battle who are opposed to the very concept of God and whose whole purpose it is to fight against God.
So your question is, okay, are there UFOs?
Correct.
For a start. Okay, I got a simple answer. There sure are. And I can say this for a very simple reason, that out there at Cheyenne Mountain, our job was to look at absolutely everything up there in space, coming into our screens all the time. And if somebody pointed at a blip that was going through at a high rate of speed and said, okay, what's that? I haven't the foggiest idea, General. In another 30 seconds, it'll be gone. So the mission of Space Command with regard to UFOs, for you UFO buffs, was really quite simple. We ignored that crap unless there was some reason to think that it posed a danger to the United States. That's just pretty much the premise that we were going on in Space Command. And I think there's a lot to be said for it, that the big barrier here, the big wall, Donald Trump's wall,
yes.
so to speak, is just exactly what H.G. Wells and Andromeda Strain said it was, biology. The scary thing was M.K. Naomi. That was the biological stuff. And nobody paid a whole lot of attention to that. But when I got into that, it made my blood run cold, because you're talking about the worst possible kinds of biological warfare that could be even conceived. And if your listeners, if they're not going to be scared enough by what I said earlier about nuclear bombs and the Tsar bomb and stuff, tell them to go Google M.K. Naomi, Naomi, about the biological aspects that were carried out then in the MK series of stuff.